Judy.
Just I want to take you back to downtown and ask you if you'd update us on the Symphony Woods bond bill. What's going on with that?
Well, there's a question about, well, first of all, let me tell a little bit about what bond bills are. There's a part of the budget that is set aside statutorily every year that goes only to bond bills for different jurisdictions. So if a bond bill is not approved, that does not mean that the money goes into help for people with children who have disabilities or anything like that. There is some talk from the President of the Senate about possibly not doing any bond bills this year. But if they do go forward, as they have for I don't know how many years, and Howard County has put in for very few of them over the years, actually, and particularly Columbia. The ones that we have gotten have mostly not been in Columbia. The county executive has 4 or 5 bond bills in this year for various parts of the county, all, worthy causes. Ed Casemeyer and I, since we represent the area where Symphony Woods is, put in a bond bill in the amount of $250,000 to help the Columbia Association get started on the Central Park down where Symphony Woods is, which has been designed by longtime Columbia resident Cy Pommier, who's an internationally renowned urban planner. And I don't use those words lightly, internationally renowned. He loves Columbia, and he's volunteering his time and his skills and his talents wherever he can to help make downtown Columbia or central Columbia or town center or whatever you want to call it a more people-friendly place. And so he did a design for making Symphony Woods into more of a central park with wider pathways and a water element and I got this far. And I don't want to call it a restaurant, but some kind of a food service place more than just a kiosk back along the fence that could possibly service both people at Merriweather concerts and people who would be out doing more active things in Symphony Woods. So the president of the Columbia Association, Phil Nelson, who's been in the job now for 10 months, that's hard to believe, came down to Annapolis last week to one of our delegation meetings to have an opportunity in a kind of informal setting, thank you, Annie, to talk with us. And he was asked the question, are you ready to go? And they said, yes, they are. They've budgeted a few $1 million to get going on this. And, so I don't know if it's going to pass it. First of all, we have to be certain that there are going to be bond bills this year. It looks like that's going to be a yes. Ed will have a role in that. I will not. I mean, he's, up there, one of the top couple people on the Senate budget. Then it's a question of whether this bond bill gets approved. And I guess all I'll say is that with Ed as the sponsor again, that is a big plus. Why are you taking that from me?
I'm afraid of the slider.
Oh, okay.
It's in a slope.
Thank you. She takes good care of me. So it would be a really great thing, I think. Well, I think Symphony Woods Park, I think, is going to get done regardless of whether the bond bill is approved. But when I compare it to a lot of the other bond bills that have been given over the years, I think this is a pretty good cause. You have another one, Nancy, Aileen? Is there anybody who I haven't gotten yet? Let me get Michael, okay?
I was hesitant to ask this question because you probably haven't got the answer to it.
Well,
I felt that it's a novel idea which deserves some exposure. With regards to the problems of balancing the budget, the government sent out an email requesting our suggestions on ways to cut the costs. And I thought that was an excellent idea, trying to mine the ideas of ordinary people. But I wondered if that was ever followed upon, and if did they receive any good ideas that were actually considered.
You're right, I don't know the answer, but I'll ask him. I seriously will. I'll ask him what came out of that. He comes over and talks to the legislature every once in a while. and I will do that. And I'm going to take that time, I think, to... Did you have something, Scotty? I'll take one more, somebody who didn't get me, and Laura, but then I really want to cut it off. Did you?
It would be helpful if you know the earlier questions about the recent council bills were targeted. And if you could give us just an update of where we are on the...
Well, I'll give it to you as I know it. That's something that possibly Councilmember Siggety could, get together with some of you on and you ask her, because she, really knows, has the, the vote, just as I know more about state legislation than she does with that. But the bills were, both approved, and some amendments were adopted, some were not. And I already told you what my concerns are, is that the environmental aspects and a lot of the aspects and the funding for all the infrastructure and all that's needed is not secure in that legislation. And I will add, saying for the third time tonight, there's nothing I would like more than to be wrong on that. But that's where we are. That's where we are right now. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Do you have anything from Annapolis that you hope or see that might help us with our budget? Are there any bills coming through that you see any future for?
Well, there's one for an increase in the alcohol tax.
Yes.
And that's not going to be a huge amount of money, but it would be money that the Bloomberg Foundation did a very detailed, excellent study on that, on how long it's been since the alcohol tax has been increased. 35 years, I believe, is correct. And also on the impact it could have to, in some ways, cut back on abuse of alcohol. It obviously wouldn't resolve that issue. But many legislators are really so afraid of any kind of a tax increase of any kind in an election year. And you can understand why when you read, the kinds of questions. I don't know if it has a chance or not. I'm going to wrap up. I encourage you all to hang around. What is it, Jay? Yeah. Okay, one quick one, and then there's something I want to say before.
I just want to thank you for being a good person, Liz.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for putting into action what you always tell your friends and your constituents, and that is there is no way to peace. Peace is the way.
Yep, that's one of my favorites.
That you had in dealing with people here who were.
They were the same way I am sometimes. Yeah, same way I am sometimes.